remapping. So what you do is, meron kang code that represents your model. It doesn't need to be strict in the object oriented na way ng pagano mo. It could represent one-to-one kung ano yung mga tables mo, kung ano yung mga tawag dito, kung ano yung definitions ng fields mo sa tables mo. And then, lalagyan mo na lang siya ng attributes para mag-map siya dun sa database mo, dun sa database definitions mo. So how do we define this? So for the ORMs that I mentioned, Link to SQL is not exactly an ORM actually. Tawag dito, it's a database first model, and what you do is using yung definition ng tables mo, gagawa siya ng objects para sa'yo. Gagawa siya nung objects that you could use as a database model. For NHibernate, technically pwede na mauna mong gawin yung database, and then gagawa ka ng classes na using an XML file, imamap niya yung definition nung table na yun sa mga classes mo. But the more ideal scenario for NHibernate, which takes from yung parent kasi NHibernate is just a .NET port of Hibernate, which is a Java na project. And what they wanted there was a model first approach. Model first meaning gagawa ka ng classes mo, and then you run those classes through an automated tawag dito parang database parser. And then using that, ang magiging end result nun is a SQL script na puro create table, puro create statements for your tables, tapos yung definitions ng columns mo, and etc. So ang ideal na scenario sa NHibernate is wala ka pang database, galing sa object definitions mo, siya yung mag-generate ng create statements for your database. And then finally, nilabas ng Microsoft later on yung Entity Framework, and it sought to use all of these yung make these approaches available. So kung meron ka ng database na existing, with EF you could do it ala link to SQL. Ida-drag mo siya doon sa isang designer space, tapos mag-generate na siya ng parang models mo. Pwede rin na parang model first, but this is slightly similar. This is actually wala siyang difference dun sa it's very similar dun sa NHibernate model na gagawa ka ng classes tapos mag-generate siya ng database definition based on that. And then there's yung code first naman, which is parang is just a combination of the two. So meron ka ng database, meron ka ng code, dun mo ilalagay sa code mo yung database definitions mo. And imamap niya yun dun sa EF. Okay. Anyway, why are we bothering to even discuss ito? Why is it important na i-separate natin sometimes violently? Parang hindi natural yung feeling na isa-separate mo yung business logic mo or yung business rules mo dun sa dito mo, kasi in many cases business logic is just crude. Business logic is just creating, reading, updating, and deleting, di ba? and in some cases, your business logic or application, ang talagang purpose lang niya is mag-process ng data. So why are we bothering to go down this path? Ano? The very end objectives are yung pag-follow natin ng object-oriented principles sa programming natin. So una is the single responsibility principle. So as I said, it would be better if the UI, your UI code, for example, isn't mixed with data access code and your business logic. Puro ano lang siya, puro user interface lang siya. Second is you have it's changed in one place. Sorry, it's changed in one place and then fixed everywhere. So if you have a change in your data table definition, sa isang lugar mo lang siya papalitan. In the case of NHibernate and Entity Framework, you only have to change yung definition niya or yung attributes niya. And then being able to do that, it leads to yung extensibility and finally yung testability. If we do this, there are concepts like test-driven development, for example, which is yung pag-design ng application with unit tests. It's very hard to test if your business logic is correct kung ang nagbe-break pala dun sa test or ang nakakasira pala sa kanya is yung data access mo. So you want to separate the two. It's also very hard to, for example, test yung business logic lang kung kailangan pang dumaan dun sa user interface niya para lang matest mo kung tama yung logic na ginagawa mo. So separating them will be very ideal kung gagamit ka na ng mga automated na testing frameworks saka ng test-driven development and tawag dito being able to separate them lets you see kasi kung kung which one is really breaking, kung problema mo ba is kung yung bug mo ba is related to your data access. Baka naman mamaya kaya nagka-crash yung system mo is not because kulang ng connection sa database, but because meron kang infinite loop sa sa business logic mo. Or baliktad naman, baka kaya hindi nagre-return ng tamang for example, kung meron kang count, hindi meron kang sinasubmit na isang mahabang list of values, baka naman ang nag-spew out ng wrong value is yung database mo and hindi yung application mo mismo. So things like that. So, but how do we do this? How do we move on from here? What do we do now for this? So, baby steps. So there's no need really to change your existing setup. So kung meron ka ng application na running, unless you decide to rewrite everything, it's better na wag yun na lang galawin, especially kung production yung application nyo. The thing with very old code is that even if it's done, even if it's not in any way what you would call maayos na code, even if it's a big ball of mud, even if it's kahit na hindi siya yung code na you're going to be proud of na ito yung sinulat ko, the fact na nasa production na yan for a very long time means na marami ng users na dumaan doon and practically na test na siya very very extensively. So if you've been using a certain certain VB6 application for 5 years or 10 years, mas malaki pa rin yung value nung non-object-oriented, non-testable, tawag dito, business logic in the click event application. Mas malaki pa rin yung value nun kaysa dun sa bago kong application na kinukode ko pa lang ngayon using all the most recent na concepts of object-orientedness and test-driven development and everything. Mas malaki pa rin yung value ng isa kasi na-test na siya by very many users. It would be very dangerous kung bigla mong i-shift into a new application na i-rewrite mo na lang na without thinking of the possible consequences. So what do you do? Basically, it's baby steps. Kung kailangan mo kung halimbawa nag-port na kayo sa Visual Studio and then napaganan yun na in .NET, leave it as is. Sige. Pero once you start implementing new features, for example, you code new layers in a thin vertical slice. So what do I mean? Magko-code ako halimbawa ng additional na magdadagdag ako ng isang button dun sa form ko. For that button, gagawa na ako ng business layer, gagawa na ako ng data access layer. Pero kahit para sa kanya lang. So what's the logic there, ano? Gusto mo na yung very limited, expand only as needed yung mo kasi habang maliit yung code mo, especially for some it would be their first time to try yung talagang object oriented na programming. A very small feature would be a nice way to learn the concepts, test the concepts, and make sure that it just works in the simplest possible way. So yun. Ang point is we have to for any migration effort, you have to be very prudent, you have to be very careful. In the sense na hindi naman worthless yung yung existing mo na code eh. Ano pa rin yan? Valuable pa rin yan kasi gumagana pa rin yan. So yun. So you expand only as needed, pero unti-unti yung mga new features mo, dun mo na siya i-implement as a totally new system. Okay? Unless, of course, again, kung you've decided to rewrite everything. So in that case, might as well try everything out. Pero syempre, mas magtatagal kung buong system yung i-rewrite mo. Okay. So further reading, I have seen three very good books that I recommend for reading on this topic, yung sa kung paano magbuo ng business application. Siguro ang pinaka-important dito is the first one, Patterns of Enterprise Application Architecture by Martin Fowler. So ang discussions do sa Patterns of Enterprise Application Architecture is yung common na structure ng mga applications na makikita mo in business and enterprise. So you don't have to think of everything your way. Tawag dito, this is one very good book showing a lot of examples nung nung paggawa nun. And this is a little strange kasi yung book na to mixed yung examples niya. So meron siyang Java, meron siyang C#, meron din ata siyang ASP.NET and PHP. So it also, aside from yung patterns, it tries to cover a lot of the common programming languages. And then yung second and third book, yung Working Effectively with Legacy Code by Michael C. Feathers and Refactoring to Patterns by Joshua Kirevsky. These are also nice books in terms of how you either maintain